Hi, Yvonne. It's so lovely to have you online today via Zoom. Thank you so much for offering your time to speak with the network.
Very well.
So most people would know you as Yvonne Walker, a member of a board member of i3net. But obviously you are also a conduct management and HR specialist and owner and director of HR with Ease. I know that you have such a wealth of experience and you have been a HR manager and specialist working for BHP Billiton in the past and Transfield Services, and obviously you are a business owner and have been running your business for a long time now in the local area. And so what I wanted to do was, as you're an expert in this area, really just to ask you a few questions, because obviously we're going through a very difficult time at the moment with the coronavirus. And so thank you. I know you're extremely busy at the moment, but thank you for giving us your time today. So yeah, I had a few questions to run through, but obviously just wanted to say thank you to you first.
Thank you for the really kind introduction. Much appreciated. And yeah, it's great to be asked to do this and to be able to help, hopefully.
Yeah, definitely. No, it's great. We really appreciate it. And I think that's the whole community spirit at the moment. We're wanting our members to support each other and work together. So thank you. The first question I had was really just about now that the coronavirus is well and truly here, what are the key actions that employers should take now?
Okay, so I'm only going to deal with the employee entitlement sort of aspects rather than the work health and safety stuff. So the blanket statement is, make sure that you're observing all of the New South Wales health guidelines in terms of maintaining distance and that sort of stuff for your employees, sanitising hands and so on. So that's not going to be something I'm talking about today. Look, in terms of employees, I think the business needs to start looking at what kind of provisions are available for employees in the event that they need to be off work, whether it's because they have to self-isolate or because they actually are sick. So businesses probably need to start thinking about what are the annual leave provisions they have that people have up their sleeve, how much sick leave do people have, if people have to self-isolate or if people have to go into quarantine because they are ill and they don't have enough leave, what kind of provision is the employer prepared to make or able to make within whatever's within its means, and whether or not there are things you can do if people do have to be at home, whether or not some of their work can actually be done from the home environment in a way that still works for the business but will keep the employee engaged and working and feeling less isolated overall.
Yeah, no, that's great. What happens if there just isn't enough work to keep staff on?
Okay, so that's a really good question, and it's one that a lot of my clients are actually facing right now in particular industries. Look, most awards don't make provision for people to actually be stood down if there's not enough work, but this is an unprecedented situation. And under the Fair Work Act, because it is out of the control of employers, what's happening in terms of their industry, their entire industry having a basically instant downturn, because it's so unprecedented, there is the ability for businesses to say to staff, look, we can't provide you with work. If you would like to take your paid leave provisions, we're happy for you to do that. If you don't have unpaid leave, if you don't have any paid leave, then we're willing for you to take unpaid leave so that you are ready to gear up again when things do pick back up. So you don't have to then go out and look for other staff in the meantime. Yeah.
Oh, the internet has just lost the internet. Sorry, just lost you there. So, sorry, could you just repeat that last section? Were you saying just for people that could put their staff off with leave without pay, and then so they're not actually letting their staff go completely? Was that?
Yeah. So obviously, employees are people and they're impacted, and in many cases, small SMEs know their employees personally and they care about their employees. So the last thing you want to be doing is actually making someone redundant unless you absolutely have to. If you're able to actually put them off on unpaid leave so that as soon as things gear back up again, you can bring them back on board, that's really it's definitely a preferable option.
Yeah, got you. No, that's really great. One question that people probably would have, particularly because it's been in the media a lot, is Qantas just basically standing down a huge part of their staff. How can Qantas do that? How can Qantas do that, and can I just do that, I suppose, as an employer?
So that comes back to the fact that this is just such an unprecedented situation. Personally, I would have expected that Qantas would have had stand-down provisions in a lot of its enterprise agreements, because we are talking about enterprise agreements with Qantas, not awards. However, the expert advice is that some of the ones that have been looked at don't have stand-down provisions. But it comes back to the fact that it's just so unprecedented that you just physically can't, as a business, continue to pay 20,000 people if there's no money coming through the door because your business can't run. So it does come down to the fact that this is completely outside the employer's control. And as long as there's nothing in, say, an enterprise agreement or award that actually prevents you from standing people down, then it's something that businesses of all sizes could actually do.
Yeah, okay. No, thank you for that. And is there any special consideration for, because I know a lot of people would have casual staff and would also have a lot of contractors as well. Is there anything special our members should look out for casuals and contractors?
I guess from a personal point of view, the casuals and contractors actually, or independent contractors we are talking about here, so largely sole traders with ABNs, they can actually access the government's, it's not called sickness benefits as of today, it's now called job seeker allowance, but they can access that if they are ill. And I believe there are also some other concessions if they're put off work that they can access. So obviously those people are the first people. That's why you have a casual or a contract workforce in a lot of cases. It's because you can then, deal with the peaks and the troughs by letting contractors or casuals go as you need to, and then hopefully keep as much of your permanent workforce as you can. So unfortunately, that is a group that is likely to be heavily impacted, and I'm looking forward to whether the government will actually come to the party with any additional assistance for highly casualised industries.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's great. Thank you. And obviously at the moment, a lot of people are scared about the virus. They're not, there's a lot of people are scared to hop on public transport, and they're just worried about catching the virus either at work or on the way to work. What happens if an employee says, look, I want to stay home? They're not sick, just as a precaution, to say, look, I want to work from home, or I want to stay at home because I'm scared of catching it.
So I think this is going to be something that comes up more and more if the spread of the virus occurs more quickly in the local area. At the moment, I think it doesn't seem to be spreading rapidly, but certainly I think there's going to be more and more concern if that does happen. The question I would pose to employers is, if someone does actually, if they think they're sick and they come to work and they make the rest of your workforce sick, is that actually going to impact on you more than if they stay at home on paid leave? If someone is choosing to stay at home, you don't have to pay them sick leave. If they're sick, obviously, they're entitled to claim sick leave. If they're in self-isolation, then I would suggest it's probably good practice to leave them at home if they're in self-isolation because they've had a close contact with someone who has the virus or could have, or they've come back from overseas under the 14-day travel rules. So those are the instances in which, sick leave would apply. Certainly if someone was choosing to stay at home because they were just super concerned about it, perhaps they have their own health issues, you may want to consider still paying them sick leave. In that case, I guess one thing I'd say in this area is employees who have large sick leave balances have large sick leave balances for a reason. It's because they don't take a lot of sick leave and they don't abuse the system. So if somebody has a big balance, consider allowing them to take it if they have a particular, what's the word I'm looking for? If they have a particular vulnerability to the virus, or they live with an aging parent or something along those lines. So I'd consider allowing that as a humane thing to do. If someone isn't in that situation and they're just super concerned, paranoid, whatever you might call it, then you'd probably look at saying, well, look, you've got some annual leave up your sleeve. If you would like to take some annual leave, please do so. Either that, or you could look at whether they can work from home.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's really great. Thank you. And on the flip side of that, what happens if the employer wants people to stay at home as a precaution?
So again, it's looking at the balances that people have. I guess if you've got to keep your business running, you really want to be able to see if you can work from home, and that's the whole crux of it, isn't it? Wherever you can possibly have people working from home, you should. And that's about keeping productivity and keeping the work flowing, not just about a money issue.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's great. And with people working from home, are there any particular precautions or things that employers should think about doing before saying, yep, take your laptop, off you go?
Absolutely. So there are very real issues around cybersecurity. If people have work laptops, or if they're using their own computers, laptops or desktops at home to dial in remotely, there are some real cybersecurity issues that a business needs to consider and needs to take steps to mitigate. Certainly, if there are people working on their own computers, for example, the possibility of a notifiable data breach, for example, under the privacy laws might be increased. So a business really looks at the steps they need to take for that. People may need to take physical files home, for example, if not everything is electronic, and that also is a privacy concern. So you definitely need to have a written policy that sets out the expectations of what people can do with the information that they either have with them in hard copy or with them electronically. Any requirements for them to have virus protection on their technology, any requirements for them to have passwords or to keep physical documents wherever possible in a locked location, so that their family members can't just walk past and, flick through the documents. And also work health and safety, so office ergonomics. And obviously, if you're putting in place a work from home arrangement in a situation other than this, then you've got time to plan for that and make sure that people have all the correct office equipment and their monitors are at the right level and their chairs are ergonomic. We're not going to have the luxury necessarily of doing that in this situation. I think it's just a matter of making sure your policy touches off on the need to, to check the workspace and make sure that they are working in a way that's not going to put them at risk of injury as well while they're at home.
Yep. So in that case, the policy would be there's a self-check in the policy. The employee must basically go through a checklist and say, yes, my chair's okay, the environment's safe. So the employee is the person who has the responsibility to do that. Okay.
Absolutely. And I think Soto sent something around. Is that correct?
That's it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, which was great.
Yeah, definitely.
The other consideration around working from home is that wherever possible, someone should have an actual defined and boundaried workspace, and that's a workers' comp thing as well. So while I'm sitting in my office here, I'm working. When I go upstairs to the kitchen to make myself a cup of coffee, I'm not necessarily working. Or when I go out the back and hang my washing out, not working. If I have a fall in the backyard, it's not my workspace. So there's a real need to say, yes, there's a defined space for that, where that person is working.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Thank you. Very good. Obviously, with i3net, we have a lot of our members, they're all industrial-based members.
Yeah.
And for a lot of them, their employees can't work from home because they're obviously working on big equipment. Yeah. What then? So if people can't do their roles at home, what are the precautions people need to take?
So some of the things that I've seen some businesses implement in recent days include having people running on panels. So rather than having all of their workforce at work at once and therefore risking exposure of all of their workforce if someone does have the virus, splitting into two panels.
Great.
One panel might work a week out and the other one might be at home, and then they come in. So they're not crossing over, they're not actually having contact with each other, and it's minimising the risk of exposure for the whole workforce. Obviously you can't take away the risk completely, but it would minimise some of that risk of one person coming in when you've got your entire workforce on and then passing it on to a whole heap of others.
Yeah, I think that's a really good solution. So yeah, having the two different teams and rotating it through that way. Yep. Yeah, that's excellent. What happens if somebody comes to work, they're working, they feel sick, they then go to the hospital and they test positive? What happens then?
again, it's got to be a case-by-case basis for the employer to decide. Another of my clients recently had that happen, and they sent any staff who had a close contact with that person home, and in order to get checked out. And they actually closed the office for the period of that couple of days while people got checked out and were found to be okay.
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. So I think that is, I think that's a really good point, that, you know, you don't have to shut everything down for 2 weeks. You can just give yourself a couple of days to sort through that. I think
who's potentially been exposed and really has no possibility of having been a close contact, and
Great. No, that's awesome. Thank you, Yvonne. They were the questions that I had. Was there anything else that you wanted to raise today, or go through any other questions that you've been getting that I didn't touch on?
Look, I think the main thing that's been coming up for my clients is, you know, okay, there's this whole issue of, yes, you can send people home. You can force people to stand down and take unpaid leave. You know, at the end of the day, these are your employees, and this is going to end. This is going to have an end point on it. And you want to be able to maintain good working relationships with your employees for when that upswing happens. Potentially there are some industries where, you know, yes, it will bottom out, but then things will escalate quite quickly at the other end. So you really want to take the most consultative approach that you can for dealing with your employees in this situation. Give people the option of taking leave if it's available to them. Don't, you know, rather than forcing them to stand down. Talk through the fact that, look, if this doesn't improve in 3 weeks or 4 weeks' time, we're actually going to have to shut the doors. What can we do to save some money right now? Or what else can we do to try and mitigate that risk for everybody in this business? So it's just about, it's about talking with your employees, involving your employees as much as you can in the decisions that are impacting on them. At the end of the day, we're all trying to put food on the table, business owners and employees alike. So giving them an input and at least some feeling of, it's not control, because none of us have control right now, unfortunately, but giving them some feeling that they've got an input into decisions that impact on them is really, really important for that relationship moving past the coronavirus.
Yeah, no, that's excellent. Thank you. And if people need some help and assistance in their business, and they're looking for HR support, how can somebody reach out to you and engage you in your services?
Look, we do have a Facebook page. We have a website, www.hrwithease.com. Facebook is just HR with Ease. Or I can be contacted on mobile 0487 385 887. Even if someone's just got a really quick question, that's fine. It's all about helping each other out, isn't it, in these circumstances? Yeah,
it is. No, thank you so much. And, you know, just the fact, I know how busy you are at the moment, and just the fact that you've donated your time this morning to share those really practical tips and advice with the network, it's very much appreciated. So, Yvonne, thank you so much. And it was great to be able to chat to you today. So thank you.
Lovely. Thanks heaps, Bianca. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you too. Bye.